Hello BookTube and welcome back to my channel. I am Sarah, this is Aussie SFF, Sci-Fi and Fantasy, and I have my recent reads and reviews for you. So, I've been away for a while. I've had a awful couple of weeks at work. And the last thing I felt like doing was putting on makeup, because I don't wear that normally, but I look ill if I don't put it on for this. And sitting down and talking. I've come home, I've sat in front of the television and basically vegged out, or zombied out is more like it. So I am now on holidays, and other than the fact that I fell over yesterday and I'm all arthritic and hobbling around, I am feeling a lot less daunted by the videotaping process. Thought I'd catch you all up on what I have read recently and what I felt about it. Here we go. I recently participated in the Tome Infinity and Beyond. I'm going to do a separate wrap-up for those books, so look out for that one. I'm going to continue on that process because I was really enjoying reading lots of sci-fi for a change. So one of the most recent books, no, the least recent book I have read and not talked about was I listened to Neuromancer by William Gibson. This was amazing. It was a 5 out of 5 star read. I think I'm going to have to go back and read it again because I wanted to go through the entire trilogy, and I listen to things at 2 speeds, so sometimes I don't get all of it. But what I did get with the hacking and the amazing world that these people can connect to using their cyber implants, etc., it was like the Matrix before there was the Matrix, except not. And it was a little bit Altered Carbon, and it was a little bit Blade Runner, and it was all fantastic. My next book, in my endeavour to try and catch up on series that I have read, is The Song Rising by Samantha Shannon. This is the 3rd book in the Bone Season series. I wasn't a big fan of book 2. I really didn't rate it. It was a lot of setting up the world, which I felt had already been set up in the first book, and it really sort of left me wanting something to move on with. This was brilliant. This was a 4 out of 5 star read. We get to know all of our characters much better. We get to see the nuances within those characters, and we actually get some backstory as to the uprisings and the Molly riots. So much better note than the 2nd book. Not a great picture, but here we go. This is my next one. It was Deadpool, Sins of the Past. I've been reading these on my Marvel Unlimited subscription, and this was by Mark Waid. This was a 3 out of 5. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as the Circle one that I read recently, which was the precursor to this one. Next, again, and I listened to this one, this was the Percy Jackson Greek Gods, where he basically just goes through the history of a lot of the very important keystone gods, not just the 3, but a lot of the Titans as well as the gods that came after them. I think I'm going to really benefit from having read this or listened to this, because I am trying to go and read Homer's Odyssey and the Iliad sometime soon, and I have tried to listen to that in the past and being completely confused, so I'm going to give it a go as reading, and that was a 4 out of 5. Next, in my endeavours to read a bit of pulp fiction, crime drama. These are, I feel like, a guilty pleasure. My murder mysteries. This is Kiss the Girls by James Patterson. This is the second in the Alex Cross series. I read some of these when I was in high school and absolutely loved them. They're just plain old murder mysteries. No fantasy, set in America. Alex Cross is a African American who has a degree in psychology, I think, but works for the police, and he has to deal with all of the issues that come about from his ethnicity in the 90s. It is it's pulp fiction, but at least it's got that little bit of a edge to it. And that one was a 4 out of 5. We actually get it set up so that there's a ongoing missing killer that they haven't caught in this book. Next, I actually listened to it, but why wouldn't I use my beautiful illustrated edition to demonstrate? I listened to the audiobook version of Prisoner of Azkaban. Our ones in Australia are done by Stephen Fry, and he really does add an extra element to them, and I absolutely cack myself laughing on my drive to work, which is amazing considering the last 2 weeks I've had. Really enjoyed it. Once again, I just like visiting this world every so often, and audiobook and Stephen Fry make it even better. It's a 4 out of 5. Once again, as a audiobook, I listened to the first volume in The Alchemist, Nicholas Flamel, The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel series by Michael Scott. I really liked the modern twist on this old tale with Nicholas Flamel and the various gods that they have to deal with and immortals that they have to deal with, and the poor twins are just dragged along for the ride, and now they're prophesized about. I've got the next one on order for the audiobook version, and again, that one was a 4 out of 5. I also started the Interworld series as audiobooks. This is by Neil Gaiman. This is a sci-fi trans-dimensional style story where all of the same people from all different dimensions are able to walk. So it's the alternate version of one person throughout the different dimensions are able to walk between dimensions. And the dimensions are on a spiral type gradient, where right at the one end of the spiral is all of the science worlds, all the way towards the other end. At the end of that end of the spiral is the magic world. So places that are ruled by magic or places that are ruled by science, and everything in between. Main character is Jay, I think. I'll put it down the bottom. It's been a while. All of the alternate people of him from the different dimensions have J names, whether they be male, female, winged, part bionic, android style, whatever. They all have J names, and it gets a little bit confusing through the middle, but it was a very interesting mishmash of sci-fi and fantasy as a young adult book. Fantastic. I would definitely recommend reading it in an audiobook format because of the formula. I don't know what it would be that lets them know where the home base is. And that one was a 3 out of 5 read. I also read electronically from my library Beneath the Sugar Sky by Seanan Maguire. This was a 5 out of 5. I didn't like the second book, but it is very different in tone to the first and the third. Whereas this, I enjoyed this immensely. I think I read it in about 4 hours, which is truly amazing for me. I loved the new characters. I loved the introduction back of the old characters, and I will be continuing with this series when it comes out next year. Looking forward to it as well. I also read the 0.5 short story from the start of the Chronicles of St. Mary series by Jodie Taylor. The very first damn thing. I didn't like it. I don't feel like it added anything to the story that was started in the first book. It was a 2 out of 5. It was alright, it wasn't great, and it wasn't truly god awful. It was well written, just wasn't my cup of tea. I don't feel like it brought anything else to it. And that's it, guys. That has been my recent reads and reviews. Not much in the way of review because it was a lot to shove in read wise. If you liked it, please hit the thumbs up. If you have any recommendations for me, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button.